Hello, and you're very welcome to the Townhead podcast. They say a week is a long time in politics. Well, it's a lifetime in Dundalk FC. I suppose I'm joined here by John Temple. John, how are you?
Evening, Chris. How are you?
I suppose this is a follow-up to our interview last week on the live podcast. And I suppose a lot has happened since then. It's the best place to start. Where do we currently sit with the ownership of Dundalk Football Club?
Thanks very much, Chris. The ownership of the club is still the same it was 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago. It hasn't changed. I am the majority shareholder at 65%, and then Chris Clinton is in at 20%, and then we've three other shareholders, and they hold about 5% each, roughly.
So pretty much nothing, despite everything that's out there, nothing has really changed in the past week.
Nothing has changed in structure. There has been obviously some disquiet among the American shareholders, if you like. Now, they are Irish, but they're living in America. So they're over in America, and there is disquiet among themselves. And they wrote a letter to me last Thursday morning, and they set out where they were not happy with some things. And I replied back to their correspondence on Thursday night when I had time to do so. They CC'd the FAI in there, which is a carbon copy to the FAI in the email, and I did the very same. Then on Friday, an article goes live at lunchtime, and it sets out and contains just their correspondence, to which I was disappointed because mine was not included. I can't explain if it was bad journalism. I can't say about where Aidan Fitzmaurice didn't ask the question. Was there any follow-up to their correspondence? And at that stage, I had suggested mediation. And the reason I did so was I didn't ask for just kind of trying to keep things stabilised. And no, destabilisation is not good for the club. Yeah. It puts the FAI on edge. It puts, as you can see, over the last number of days, the fans are on edge. And it particularly where the heartbeat of the club is that it goes back to our sponsors. So the sponsors become weary. And at this time of the year, it's very crucial. We're at a very crucial point of the club. One, we're applying for the licence. And I'll come back to that in a moment. The licence which is still there and has never been refused. We're also coming back to the main sponsors because we're currently finalising designs for next year's jerseys. And that's very important. And we also have a crucial point with the FAI asking questions as to how we're going to proceed going forward. Nobody wants to be brought into controversy, but people are entitled to know what's the truth, what's happening at the club. And I think there's been that much misinformation, if you like, kind of the fake lies and stuff and the lies that have gone out there and the fake truth. People are entitled, and that's why I've acceded to your request of doing this today and for coming here and trying to explain to the fans, because it's to them I'm appealing, to inform them that there is no need for the panic which is going on. The rumour mill is circulating. We haven't got a licence. That's not true. That the FAI have said we're not getting a licence. That's not true. We, like every other club in the League of Ireland, will apply for our licence. There is no difference, to my knowledge, of what the licence entails. If you're either just playing in the First Division or you're playing in the Premier Division. There's no Premier Division licence or First Division licence. Now, I stand to be corrected. I think there are extra things that will be to go on when you're in the Premier Division, but as far as I'm aware, it's a license. It's just a license. Okay. It's not big car, small car. It's literally just a driving license. So this is
Is there different criteria to the Premier Division then? Certain elements have to be adhered to?
It's only with UEFA, and the only reason why that is in case your club has been successful into Europe, because they have to have certain things. If we were to play European games, UEFA games here again, then that would have to change. That's been going on this year because we've had to play some of our games in Tallaght Stadium. And people are very much aware that we're not a grade 4 stadium. And I think we're a grade 1 or a grade 2. There's an awful lot needs to be improved. And that's going to take time and money.
Let's get down to it. The biggest concern of all the fans, of course, is the licence, which you've kind of touched on. And I suppose the two big elements, you did touch on it last week in the Spirit Store, the pitch and the floodlights. Is there any update in that situation?
The update is that, to give to the fans, is that we have Now, just moments before I came into this, I'm sure you've heard, we've had a phone call back from one of the companies. The Minister for Sport arrived here a few weeks ago. We welcomed him here, and in a discussion I made it quite clear to himself and his department officials that we required for things to move quicker than what they were. And I have discussed this about the lien on the property that the Chief State Solicitor's Office will impose. We don't own Oriel Park, but what we do own, they want to put a lien onto it. That's just to secure in the event that we don't take away what we've just installed straight away, and we draw it in a grant and we run away from it. So it's not, I feel like, too hard to meet that criteria because we don't have the property, but we do have lease over it. So hopefully that can move quicker. In relation to what we've done for the pitch is, the FA have indicated that Dundalk FC will get a licence, all going well. What we won't get is to play at Oriel Park if there's no pitch. We won't get to play our games at 7:45 p.m. if we've no lights. So it's up for us in the club to ensure that we have those standards met, that we have a new pitch, and we also have to make sure that we've got the proper lux lights to come in for the club.
And do we think that that's going to be achievable? I think you were talking there might be a shortfall of cash last week in the Spirit store. Do we think that have you bridged that, I suppose, to make this work?
Between the two of them, there were works estimated at about 500,000, but the government grant is 454. So between the two of them, they're probably going to take all of that money and maybe a little bit more. The shortfall is going to be in the gate receipts. We're hoping that we can spread the cost ourselves and that hopefully we'll be able to draw that money back down again. I mean, that's where we're at the moment, because if we put the money in, we have to speculate to it. We have to spend the money first, and then we get reimbursed by the government department.
I suppose the other big question on everyone's minds over the past week is the communication with the FAI. I suppose if you were to believe everything, there's a breakdown in communication there. Is that the case, or how is communication with the FAI? Communication
is very good. They're contacting myself anyway on a daily basis to have a chat or a conference chat. One who's is Mark Scanlon, the director of the League of Ireland, is in constant contact. Obviously, he would like to have had matters mediated also between the parties and to continue, because the licence is going to be given to the Dundalk Football Club. It's going to be for all of us as shareholders to play our part in there together. And that's important that we all, if you like, we work together and we can kind of find that common ground. It's lost its base. I understand that some of them may be unhappy. We did have a meeting at the very end of the season and I spoke to some of the shareholders. We have 4 shareholders in America. So there's Chris Clinton, there's John Keenan, there's Kevin Brayton, and there's Mike Sinati. And out of them, only John Keenan has put in a small amount of money this year. Chris Clinton has put in the same, probably contributed with the same I've put into the club. But there has been nothing from the other 2 shareholders. And this is what I was expressing, that I would like for them to contribute something towards the club. And that, I find, was not too much of a hard ask, especially since we're going to be elevating up to the Premier Division now. And it's a very important time for the club. We're back now. We're back within a year. Look what we've achieved over the last 12 months. When people said this time last year, we hadn't got a licence, we weren't going to get a licence, it's just like history repeating itself. Mm-hmm. And it's only emanated, the argument has only emanated from one side. And I think this is important that I communicate this to the fan base and to the supporters, but also to the sponsors, because I know that they will watch this as well. And I think it's important to reassure them that we're still steam ahead in what we've got to achieve.
I suppose the other question on everyone's lips is around investment. Has there been any change in that? I think you said in the Spirit Store you would welcome investment in some form. Has there been any change in that over the past week or more?
I met with, funny enough, I left immediately after I was finished on stage with yourself and the 2 lads, and had to go home to a Zoom call to somebody who wanted to discuss about putting in investment. And again, this sort of unstable uncertainty drives those type of people away. Mm-hmm. As I said, I'm always willing to go into someone who wants to talk properly about investment. The League of Ireland is not something that people make money out of. It's something where you come into it and you put it in for the love of it or the joy of it. People ask me, why did I get involved last year? I did so because nobody else would. Mm-hmm. And it's tiring when people turn around and say, "Oh, John Temple has no money," and if Chris Clinton's paying everything, and this is the comments online, and if the American shareholders are walking away, and now Temple's left with nothing. Well, earlier, just before this interview, I've shown you some of the accounts. Is there any figure around 500,000 that you can see? No. And can you see where like bills are being paid and stuff is going in and coming out?
Yeah.
I don't mess around with kind of what's there. I also I've shown you on one of the accounts the transfer of Sean Keogh's fee. Did you see that?
Yeah.
So despite the rumours that were fueling that I had taken Sean Keogh's money for myself and pocketed. I've taken no money to pocket for myself. I've put everything back into the club, including the money that Chris Clinton gave me he bought percentage off me. By law, I could have held on to that money and said that's mine, but I didn't. I put all that money back in, and I've shown you on my own personal account where I've paid out some of the players' wages from last year as well. So I've been very transparent about that. The reason I haven't discussed Sean Keogh's overall fee is because there are other players selling throughout Ireland, and they're selling for huge amounts of money, as it would appear in the newspaper. But they don't sell for that much. What happens is that there's add-ons, there's sell-ons, there's buyback offers, there's percentages. And when they come to full fruition, when that happens, that's the end figure that you're getting. Now, I could try and talk about Sean Keogh's fee and say how much it is, but everybody would think that's our club sorted, but that's all the money we've everything sorted. It's not. What Sean Keogh sold for was a fraction of that. It was the six-figure sum. There's a retention of FIFA clearinghouse of a certain percentage, and then the rest of it comes in as Sean will progress in his own football career. He will hit milestones, and when he hits those milestones, the club will benefit, not me. Yeah. The club will benefit, and it's my role. I've a duty to make sure that the club, that the fee that the player sells on for, does so in a way that they're able to. The club will benefit from the money. So when the likes of, we'd say, Mason Melia passes on to another stage of his career, that when he plays, that the other clubs will benefit from where he's came from, and that's important. That Dundalk FC, it's how it provides the lifeblood for the club. To give you an example, Senan Mullen is playing for a club in Italy, and when I come in, they owed us money. So that's right. So when we got, I think we got about 30,000 is what we got back for that for Senan playing over there, because he reached over the year of remaining with the football club. So there's all these add-ons and different things that work inside contracts. It was the same with Sean. I've no problem being open and transparent about how much we got for Sean, but the difficulty is I don't want the fans to get excited with the end figure, and that's why it wasn't published, because the figure wasn't published because it looks massive on paper, but in reality, Sean only sold for a fraction of that. Yeah. Now we did get over six figures from him, but at the same time, that money's soon eaten out of this place, and it doesn't require for me then inside the club to have to contribute massively towards wages, and it means that the other shareholders don't have to contribute massively towards wages. That things like this come into the lifeblood of the club and they keep it going. Between themselves, the sponsors, the gates, the fans. It's not about who's putting in millions to run this football club. It's who's managing it correctly. Yeah. Who's getting the best benefit. This year, I was the one who went out and made sure that we got the grant, as I spoke about, for the toilets. They're small, gradual things that we want to put in. There's always been efforts to get grant money in, and it's now to ensure that we can follow through with that. That's all this club's about. It's not about millionaires. I said before in other interviews, I'm not a millionaire, but I am, in my own job, I try and keep things right and at 100%. And that's what's important, that the money that comes in is spent wisely and better, than more value for money. People weren't happy when I said to some staff or whatever, there's no work here for you, there's nothing left for you and you have to go, and we've let dismissals. People weren't happy with that. But I can't see justification in paying two people to do the one job. I can't justify for the club's books it can't be a club for friends. It must be a club for business. And that's very, very important right here.
And then on that, I suppose, in its current structure, are we fully budgeted, I suppose, for next year? If let's say the license goes ahead, do we need further investment for that, John, or are we currently on plan? You would say, for a competitive budget for next year?
No, I would like. We have to live. We have to cut our cloth. We can't live in the mad days, and the fans are happy enough for the club to spend money. And one thing that's become apparent from the books over the last couple of years is that the European money that we were receiving became part of the budget, and people were getting too excited about that. And when the rainy day came, there was nothing in the kitty, and that's why Dundalk FC ran aground as she did. The ship ran aground. My job here is to try and steady that and bring more stability, financial responsibility. So what I'm trying to do, and what we have to do going forward, is yes, attract more investment, but the club can't rely on a sugar daddy all its life. It needs to produce its own viability as a business going forward. It's one thing that the auditor has to sign off with now in the final things of the financial support and documentation for the FAI licence when we apply for it. And one thing that they're going to have to write down and say, is Dundalk a going concern or is it not? And last year when I came into the club, I was told by everybody, this is not a going concern. And I had to go out and get structure plans and get agreements and have talks so that when the auditors were submitting their report to the FAI, they sat down and said, it looks that from what John's proposing, that we actually do have some sort of viability. And that was bringing in the Leadville Enterprise Training Board with the FAI. And it wasn't a huge amount of money, but it was money coming into the club. Yeah. And they could see that and said, that's money coming in. The indoor pitch is opening. Within a few weeks, we had lots of bookings. And they were able to go back and say there's viability there. But now we're going to progress on to the Premier Division. It's not just about keeping the lights on and the doors open. We now have to progress both on and off the pitch. And that's what Kieran Kilduff wants to do. And that's what we have to do as a club as well. We have to grow. And we're going to have Shamrock Rovers fans down, we're going to have Bows fans down, we're going to have Shells fans down. And they're going to bring an economy into the club by themselves because they're going to come down, they're going to want to see access. It's not just going to be selling them tickets. They're going to want to be able to, if they can get access to bars, or if they can get access to a shop, if they can get access to food. Yeah, exactly. So it's things like that they want to, and that creates a small economy in itself. But it all generates money for the club. Obviously with the food, but I mean the food carts pay to be here. Yeah. And that generates money for the club, and they know how much money they're going to get, and the crowds are only ever growing. So you collect your money in from that, and that's contributing towards your budget. You don't collect your budget over 2 or 3 weeks. You budget and you keep it out, and you say that's how much we can spend in the 2 or 3 weeks, and that's how we go on. It's going to be a progression. It's the rebuild continuing, but it's bringing about stability. Now next year, if we stay in the Premier Division, we will collect a lot of money in solidarity. But we also have to remember that we have to continue to grow this as a business. It's more than just a football club. We've indoor pitches. We have space over there. We've birthday parties on. We have to grow. There's a fully kitted out, ready to rock and roll restaurant that should be, it needs to be finished off, but it's ready to go as well. We have a gym which needs a lot of the equipment is tired and it needs to be replaced. But things like that will grow an economy for it. We're back in talks with the Leadville Enterprise Training Board to try and get the programme back up here running. It was pulled about 2 months ago. And we're trying to get things like that's development, that's moving forward, that's a business plan of how we can progressively. And if you come in higher than expected, then great, we've got some money. And do we put into next year's budget? Do we spend it now? The idea is to make sure you budget way more than what you actually need, because then you're working towards that goal, that entity, the entirety of the time.
You mentioned Kieran there. I suppose that's another concern that the fans would have. Recent news, obviously, linking them to other teams and stuff like that. Has that situation changed at all, John, with regards to guarantees, I suppose, that you could give to Kieran for next year?
It hasn't changed. I spoke to Kieran 2 days ago on the phone. We get on very well, Kieran Kilduff and myself. I remember when I had to go out and source him, and we both get on very well. We have, and Kieran had said to me, we do one thing from day one. We answer each other honestly, and we work together. And we've worked very well together. I don't interfere with the pitch. When it came up to Christmas, he was like, I have a load of players signed. Do you want to know who they are? I said, no, I don't care. Because it's, as you know who they are, I have a job to do off the pitch. You do your job on the pitch. He's done a phenomenal job. He's under demand. But it's this, go back to the uncertainty. When upstairs are fighting, no one likes it downstairs. Yeah. When mommy and daddy are fighting, the kids don't like it. And this is the reality, that this has created this instability. And this is what I'm talking about. There are ways of doing things properly. And I would have preferred that there was mediation if they were not happy, if they wanted to be bought out, if they wanted to walk away. I don't understand why they say they're going to walk away. But by the American shareholders walking away, there's at least 2 of them haven't contributed anything towards the last year into this club. and a third has only contributed a third of the week's wages. So I don't understand, if they're walking away, how the club is going to collapse. But Kieran might not understand that.
Yeah.
And it's me trying to explain and having to explain to that and have a contact. Obviously, he's not happy. He's not happy because we should be sitting down today announcing someone like Kieran Kilduff is now signed with Dundalk for another year, at least. He should now be moving on, picking his players. And our biggest battle should be, how can Dundalk harvest the best players within our budget going forward?
Is Kieran currently out of contract?
No, Kieran's still within the contract, but I think it's towards the end. He was signed up, I think we announced him on the 6th of November last year. So it was kind of
yes,
to that point, if I'm correct now. That's just going back on that one.
You mentioned maybe that some of the ownership within the ownership structure may want to leave, or that's the vibe that you've got, or whatever from it. I mean, if that happens, are you in a current situation that you would be able to run the club successfully, or do you need to bring somebody else in then if that was the case?
No, I mean, if they wanted to leave, they leave, that's it.
Okay.
There's nothing, I mean, what have they contributed towards me over the last year? Now, Chris Clinton, as I said, has played a very active role. He's played a very active role in my time. Didn't play an active role in Brian Ainscott's time. And this is something that confuses me, that people are peddling this, that there are millions among the Americans and they're paying millions in. I'll go back to the point, did you see any €500,000 coming through the wages? No. So I don't see, if the Americans don't want to play an active role, I get that. They don't have to play an active role. They didn't play an active role with Brian Ainscott. But now they're coming in and saying that they have to play. And some people are confused and saying, oh, here we go again. We're back to square one again. But we're not. It was a different type of battle. Gotcha. Brian Ainscough ran out of money and was paying, could afford, I suppose in the end, hadn't paid. And when I came in, there was all these outstanding bills that had to be paid and caught up on. But this is a different battle. This is a battle of whereby somebody wants, I was asked last week to basically surrender my 65% because they didn't like my business plan and they wanted me to move away. So that's what I was given. Move on and surrender the 65%. It's not a very reasonable offer. In fact, I was given a monetary offer on Saturday night by Chris Clinton and on behalf of the other shareholders. The FAI have stepped in and said, that's not even a proper offer. That you need to go, if you want to get this guy out, you're going to have to come back with something. Basically terms of, if we qualify for a license, we'll pay you so much. And if we get a license next year, we'll pay you even more again. So my payments that they're going to repay me back to get me out of the club would be on the basis that Dundalk qualify for a license next year. And that's not legal, let alone anywhere at all. And it's not viable. It's like saying to someone, I'll buy your house off you. I'll give you so much now. And if we win the Tidy Towns competition, I'll give you an extra few pound. And if we qualify and we win, we get into the final, I'll give you another few pound. You're basing your sale of your property on what somebody else is going to do. That's not viable. It's not business. If they have all this money, you can't come out one arm as long as the other and say that these boys in America have millions behind them. And that's the rumours. Oh, there's 2 million waiting to invest and stuff. If they have that money, then come now and buy me out. You know?
The first question that's going to be on everyone's mind as soon as you've said that now, John, will be, what does John Temple want?
John Temple wants to stay in the club.
Okay.
But the last week has been very hard, not just for me, but for my family, who are out there and have to see the abuse and read the abuse and stuff. I've held my dignity, and I saw a lot of very heartening comments, people who know the truth, people who are around the club. It's not easy. Something like this takes up an awful lot of your time, and you know it does. It interferes with everything, your social life, your family life, everything that you do, even your working life. And to dedicate your time to this sort of club, it requires a small village to run this place. And we've done it. And I'm grateful for those who have got me to where I am today to get this club. And look what happens when we all work together. We've got so far and we've done so well. And now there's consternation among some people in some quarters who are not happy about something. This could have been resolved through mediation. We could have had our chats this week. Instead, Chris Clinton decides he wants to go to a newspaper journalist who, in my opinion, doesn't do his job right. Aidan Fitzmaurice could have asked Chris Clinton the straightforward question: was there any reply to the correspondence that you sent out? And he didn't. And if he didn't, was he lied to? I don't know. But the reality is this: we're at loggerheads now at this stage. If they don't want to play, and I do have an email from Chris Clinton who says that they're playing no further role and that they are withdrawing their support. But that doesn't mean that the business collapses. At 65%, I still have the control and share in this club. And as long as that happens, it's business as usual. We're still applying for a licence. We're still having to get our pitch sorted out. We have a grant to draw down. We have a budget to agree and finalise to propose now to Kieran and hopefully get that over the line. That's what has to happen next.
I suppose finally, you've been honest enough in what you've said so far. If you had a message to the fans right now, what would that be?
One, every club in the League of Ireland is the closing time is tomorrow or is on Friday, and when that closing date happens, what will happen next is that the FAI will come back and say this is in or this is not in. If it's not in, there's a fine for each document which is not in, and you have to submit it within, it could be a 24-hour window. Your license can be rejected, your license can be approved, your license can be postponed. That's the kind of, it's a red, amber, green. Most clubs, all clubs, have to put in their documentation. They're saying Dundalk haven't got a license for the 2026. Shamrock Rovers haven't got it for 2026 either. Shells haven't got it for 2026 either. Nobody has it. It's like a test. You put it in, there's a closing date for the applications.
And we'll meet that.
We'll meet the deadline.
Yeah.
From what I'm told, from right down the financials should be finalised and signed off, and that's the last thing we're waiting on. They're waiting for one legal declaration. I think there's a question over some of the cases which are outstanding. They just want to know where those cases are at, and they just came back with some questions. We did provide them with information. They have come back. The FAI will look over and check over everything. I did speak with Mark Scanlon last night, and I spoke to him on the telephone, and I said to him, please come back tomorrow and let me know what is outstanding against Dundalk Football Club, what needs to be completed before that deadline. I haven't heard back from Mark, and I'm taking that no news is good news. He could come back, but maybe he's going to come back with a huge long list. But I think if the list was panicked, or if Mark Scanlon had a worry, he'd be back right now saying, but that doesn't mean the guarantee that there's a licence coming. The
guarantee should be in the process, though.
We're in the process, but it hasn't been rejected. But I know the FA are not happy about this public display because it puts on steadiness into it destabilises the league a little, because Mark Scanlon, as director of the FAI, is getting phone calls from Cove, he's getting phone calls from Bray, getting phone calls from other clubs saying, well, even Cork, I read yesterday, are going to apply for the Premier Division licence in the event Dundalk gets kicked out and gets refused. And that's that destabilises stuff. So my thing to the fans is wait and have patience, please. The club is in good hands. If I thought that I couldn't do it, I'd walk away. It doesn't. Please don't listen to the rumour mills. There's plenty of rumours out there. People are unhappy about some things. Others know what's going on. You don't hear a single thing from the players. If the players were concerned, they'd run, they'd walk, they'd be gone out that door. The players haven't contacted me with anything but kindness and support. I don't want to get them involved because this is not their battle. Their battle's over. They've done what they have to do throughout the season. So that's why the players haven't been coming forward, and I don't want them getting involved in any of this. So if you see, remember, it's for their mindset too that you're affected. So walking out and saying something negative about Dundalk Football Club, it affects the players badly too. And that's not fair. It's not fair on anybody, especially when we have volunteers, we have staff, we have people who work here as well. And by coming out and saying something negative, you put those people in edge. They read the headlines, they read what the articles, and they read the comments. And that hurts to them as well. And personal comments about me or about my finances or about my job or about anything at all, it doesn't help. And people are speculating. And I ask people not to speculate, but wait until we have word back. We've done our best to communicate. Whatever happens, the fans will know instantly.
John, I appreciate your honesty today. Thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white. It's my black and white scarf.